Okay, so cool. Let's transition, Ryan. Let's talk about SailPoint implementations and ITSM tools. As we know, every organization has an ITSM, and most of them have ServiceNow in our experience. And as a result, there's inevitably a lot of integration that needs to take place between SailPoint and ServiceNow in order to carry out a successful identity program, and particularly a SailPoint implementation. So maybe you can just start out and familiarize us with what are these different types of integrations with ServiceNow that you typically are integrating and implementing, and kind of, what order do you do them in usually?
That's a great question. I mean, to your point, almost every single integration we do, every implementation we do with SailPoint, there is some level of integration with ITSM. And like you said, most often, maybe not most often, but at least probably more than 50% of the time, it's ServiceNow. So it's a really important integration. ServiceNow and that ITSM process, in a lot of cases, is what some organizations are using to actually manage their joiner processes, or their, because they don't have yet an IGA tool, they've kind of figured out how to do some of those things leveraging their ITSM. So whether it's access request processes, or whether it's the joiner processes, or onboarding a new person is a form in ServiceNow that then has some kind of a workflow behind it. And so it seems like at almost every level, there's some level of ITSM that either has to be replaced or integrated as part of an IGA project or a SailPoint implementation project.
Okay, yeah. So Ryan, so that's interesting. So why do organizations typically need to transition from using their ITSM tool or ServiceNow for IGA processes and transitioning to a full IGA product like SailPoint?
It's a great question. I think when you start to understand, it's really about a maturity question, to be honest, because if you're using an ITSM tool for some of your IGA process, it is still very heavy manual. You're leveraging the tool to help with some workflows and some automation around maybe approvals, but you don't have a centralized identity. You don't have all the access managed in a central way. You don't have the ability to just go to an individual and see all the access that person has, or do role management, or do the segregation of duties, or do a lot of the things that are really core to IGA just cannot be done in a ServiceNow environment. I've seen some people try to use it for access certifications with mixed results. But again, that's feeding a lot of manual stuff into it and then creating workflows to do certifications. And so a lot of times we're actually coming in to replace even that capability within a ServiceNow or any other ITSM tool, is because they've used what tools they have to get them further down the path, but it is not an IGA tool. It does not have the core identity management pieces that all the other workflows and stuff need to work around, is the main reason. So it's always a leap forward to go into an IGA tool to where you're actually managing it from that standpoint.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. So you can't really enforce, policy or anything else, without a more robust IGA tool like SailPoint. So once you do have SailPoint in place, and maybe you are transitioning some of that functionality from ServiceNow, then what is the benefit to the organization to put an integration between SailPoint and ServiceNow in place?
Yeah, that's a great question. So there's usually two, maybe three areas that we really focus on for that. One is you're not going to take all of for example, let's take access requests as an example. In general, you're typically not going to take all of the things that you would normally go to an ITSM tool to do to request access for, you're not going to take those and move those into SailPoint. Those don't belong in SailPoint. SailPoint does access. It does access for individuals, right?
Like hardware and things like that you're talking
hardware. I need a, where's my new office location, or how do I request
desk lamp.
Exactly. Request a desk lamp. That stuff has to stay in your ITSM tool. So you're going to always have those kind of functions are going to stay there. There's also this, ITSM is usually really good at just doing general ticket management. So if across my IT organization, if I need something done, I need to sign something that goes into somebody's queue and they have to get around to it. If there's anything manual that needs to be done via ticket, your ITSM tool is the place to go. So that there are things that are going to be generated out of your IGA platform, out of SailPoint, that then need to be done out of a queue manually. Not everything can be automated coming out of SailPoint, depending on what you're trying to do. But for example, even like a joiner scenario, when someone first joins the company, you're going to want to be able to create a ticket for that person to get whatever else they need that's not access. If I'm a new employee, I need to get my laptop assigned. I need to get a phone number from a desk phone type scenario. So I have my own company phone number. Often those are tickets that need to be generated. And so you want to be able to integrate the two so you can actually do all your automated access processing and provisioning in SailPoint, and then kick off a ticket to go do the other parts of an onboarding process that happen automatically. But you don't have to have a manual process. You can just do it into a ticket, and that allows SailPoint to know that, hey, I generated this ticket, and I can even follow up and know that that ticket is still open or closed, and I can still manage the whole thing in one place from a close the loop perspective on the SailPoint side for being the trigger to generate it. So that's one example. Well, that's probably a couple of examples. The other, again, is back to the access request. Some organizations are so deep into their ServiceNow as the place where you go to request anything that they also want to make sure that they can do access for individuals. Requests can still stay in ServiceNow. And so there is the capabilities to continue to make that be the place to do all of your access requests, to be more consistent across your whole company, whether it's I'm asking for toilet paper in the bathroom or I need to get access to to the finance app. Right. I want to do all of that in ServiceNow. You can still do that. So that's another really important integration that we spend a lot of time on, is how do you show the access that people can request in ServiceNow and have that be the portal that they're going through to request access, while you're having the engine on the back end be SailPoint that's actually doing the provisioning, keeping the data right, keeping the catalog current because it's seamless, be able to look at all the access I have and then request that from the catalog. So those are the two main places where we actually have a lot of integrations.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense, and preserving that user experience that an organization's used to. Yeah, so that's really great that SailPoint has the capability of allowing organizations to maintain that user experience while reaping the benefit of all the back-end central location and workflows and management and so forth. So that's pretty great.
And so SailPoint actually has created, because of that being those two use cases being so strong, they actually do have specific modules. They have a SailPoint, they call it the ServiceNow Service Catalog module, which is all about how do you do access requests in ServiceNow for items that are going to be provisioned and managed in SailPoint, all the access. Mm-hmm. And then they have the Service Desk module, which is how do I integrate at the ticket creation level so that I can generate tickets, follow up on tickets, close tickets, etc., from SailPoint, so that I can do the closed loop ticket management for anything that's generated from the SailPoint side, for any manual tasks, anything that needs to happen within the IT organization or the users of ServiceNow. It could be broader than IT, but usually typically it's IT. Then how do I manage that life cycle? So those two modules were created in SailPoint specifically to manage those two use cases because they're very, very common. Now, the third integration that we usually do with SailPoint is actually with ServiceNow, between SailPoint and ServiceNow, is to actually manage the access in ServiceNow. So how does a person get access to ServiceNow? How do they become members of the groups or the queues within ServiceNow? That's another integration that can be managed from SailPoint. So you're actually creating the ServiceNow accounts, you're actually putting users into the right groups. Now, sometimes that's directly just through Active Directory, where Active Directory is integrated between ServiceNow and Active Directory, and then you're just managing the Active Directory accounts and the groups and tying those together and doing the provisioning from SailPoint. Sometimes, in some cases, we've gone and helped organizations do the actual creating an actual ServiceNow account and then adding them to actual ServiceNow groups independent of Active Directory.
So ServiceNow can be treated like any other target system or application for provisioning and on and offboarding and so forth.
That's exactly right.
That's the other way. Yeah,
that's right.
Excellent. Any gotchas that you've experienced that might be useful for people to think about if they're considering an integration?
Definitely. So let's start with on the access request side, because I think that one has the most. Maybe it's not gotchas, or maybe it is gotchas. It's the most options for sure. Because here's the challenges: is that the way that module works is that this is the service catalog module, is that it is literally a ServiceNow application that sits in the ServiceNow store. So once you get that module purchased, you go to the ServiceNow store and you download the access request module in ServiceNow. So it's ServiceNow module that's been written in ServiceNow that has all the API calls in it back to SailPoint. So that you're running this. The challenge is for some organizations is that they've already got this kind of robust access request that they built out internally. And by adding another app to the mix, you're going to ServiceNow to do your access requests, but you have to hit another app inside of ServiceNow where all your other access request stuff might be here. And then you have to go to this other page within ServiceNow that is this specific app to request access to the access that's managed by SailPoint. So for some organizations, you have to think through that. What's the user experience going to be like? If I have to go to all my other access, I'm asking this way. And then if I want it from SailPoint, it's another app inside of ServiceNow that may not be the exact same screen or maybe a link to a different screen and may look different and have a different kind of flow to it, different process to it, even though it's in ServiceNow. So it meets some people's needs because the directive is got to be in ServiceNow. I want all my access requests in ServiceNow. It's not the same, but it's close and it's in there, meets the need. We're off and running. You do have some options there too, like you can configure the workflows themselves to the approval requests and the approval flows to be written in ServiceNow, so they can be ServiceNow flows, or you can actually have them done in SailPoint. But either way, the way that module works is that via APIs, it pulls in the content from SailPoint live and shows it in the catalog of here's what you could request. Here's the access you can request. So that part is really important. Now, some organizations don't want to, use that app. And so they look at it and go, well, I know I've got access to all the APIs. I've got really good ServiceNow developers. And so I want it to be in kind of the interface and the flow and look and feel of what I've already got there. Can I use my ServiceNow developers to just write or use the APIs that exist in SailPoint to be able to actually do the same thing without using that custom app? And the answer is yes, you can do that. So we've done that at multiple places as well, where if you've got the ServiceNow developers and you want that look and feel to be the same, and then you've got access to all the API calls and some guidance on how to use those API calls, you can create your own custom interface essentially in ServiceNow that matches what you're doing for the other requests to then include all of the access in SailPoint.
Okay, makes sense. And backing up a little bit with respect to the approvals that have to take place, that's also another user interface, user experience side of things with your approvers in the organization. And so that's also a decision point for clients, right?
That's correct.
To decide
That's right.
about that. Yeah.
That's right. That's right. So if they're already used to it, some organizations will stick with it, saying, "Hey, they're already used to having these requests coming from ServiceNow to approve things. Let's just stick with that." And you can write those workflows, those approvals right there in ServiceNow. If not, you can also leverage the SailPoint ones, right? It's just the user will just get a different email coming from SailPoint to approve access as opposed to from ServiceNow.